and welcome to the all-new season Positive Talk, where for this season we are going to be running with the theme Umbimbindo Gakwete Hachi Usigogodo. And what we are saying is to young people, as parents, we've gone through these experiences. So it's important that when we are talking to you, when we are dialoguing with you, you get to listen to us and hear what we've gone through. Today we are gathered at this event where there is a hive of activity. We have young people coming from different walks of life of Zimbabwe, where they are having their sporting initiatives here. And today we know when young people are gathered, coming from different environments, different experiences in their lives, the temptation to be influenced by others is quite high. And so today we are going to be talking to them, hearing from them about peer pressure. So join us during this discussion. We want to find out from you, when you are in an environment like this, what role does peer pressure play?
Well, Tariro, in environments like this, peer pressure plays a massive role in terms of people. There's a massive crowd in the various age groups, and you'll find out that there are people coming from different backgrounds. So there are certain kids that haven't experienced certain things when it comes to peer pressure. So they would find some other groups, maybe, for instance, drinking alcohol or smoking cannabis, whatever you have. They will be influenced to do certain things because, as you can see, there is a large crowd. So our supervisors or coaches or managers won't be able to pay attention to us throughout the whole day. So you find out that some people are pulled to certain crowds, like people who are drinking alcohol, having their certain groups around there. It's a challenge for us children and for other children to be able to take care of themselves.
In an environment like this, there is crowd. There are so many people who are here, which you tend to be influenced into drugs. Some are being involved into sexual activities like here. As some come here on their own without their parents, so they are influenced to bad things.
Peer pressure plays a big part. Like if we see, we end up conforming in certain behaviors. Like us as teenagers, we end up using drugs, we end up drinking alcohol. That's what I think.
Right, Panjumeketa say, since when Wakawanda was single in my parents, they tend to that freedom to bring in alcohol, my drugs. So it seems good to man unwanted pregnancies.
Peer pressure into embi isikhathi eziningi because endaweni ehlangene abantu so iletha into ezimbi eziningi. Xa sihlangene so abantu abaningi ikakhulu thina esihlale rugby sinxa sibuya lapha siyabe sikhangelela ukuthi sibe spotted or singene endaweni enjengabo Zim team into ezinjalo njalo. But manje asithi sonke sikwanisa ukungena endaweni nje. So abantu abaningi baqala ukuthatha ama-drugs kuthi njani they qualify to some things like this. So isikhathi eziningi peer pressure is bad and i-influencer ngabantu abaningi ezikhathini eziningi ezihlukeneyo. So isikhathi eziningi peer pressure ilethwa ama-drugs into ezingalunganga nje ukuthi sikwanise ukufeature endaweni ezilungileyo. And then at the end of the day,
you see people like with different kinds of dressing and stuff, and in a way it kind of not really encourages other children, but now questioning themselves and their parents, like what they were taught at home, and they're like, okay, fine, if my parents are saying I shouldn't do this and I'm coming to an environment like this, I'm kind of under pressure because now I'm going to go home and I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, that girl or that boy, what they were wearing or what they were doing. And it kind of like children, like some people are left out, so then they just want to try new things, and in a way it leads to some bad things as well.
As for me, I think peer pressure plays a big role in an environment like this because that's where you get to meet a lot of new people doing a lot of different stuff that come from different environments.
Idlala irole encouragement. Like kulabanye abantu especially in the ghetto, they're doing drugs. If they see things like this, they also feel encouraged, and there's that spirit of change.
Okay, first I was with us young people, we have this thing, we want to impress the next guy, the next person next to me. So if my owns are like, let's go drink booze so that maybe we have that playing, I go into that just to impress my friends. And then at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about those guys. And those are the things that affect me maybe in the future.
Why can't they resist?
Because it will be something that they'll be used to. they'll be used to doing it like on a daily basis or maybe on a weekly basis. So it will be something that will be in the system.
As young people, are you telling me you're so gullible that anything that you see, then you can't resist to say, no, I can't be influenced? You see someone taking drugs, taking alcohol, having sex, and then you say, I'm going to do it. Can't you say, no, I'm special, I'm not going to do that?
Why? Because we can do that. There's something which we have.
Very easy kuita. Like some of the friends wauninga uchitamba now, I'm talking from experience, like from my own experience at university. Paunoscore but when you meet people from different backgrounds and pamunosangana you have to blend, and sometimes unogona kuinvolve in a group revamwe vanhu vanenge vachiitawo kuda zvekunwa doro nekudi. So ndikatamba navo sometimes kuti ndizokwanisa kuramba kuti let's go out, hapana pandosara ndakagara ndega muhostel vamwe vese vachienda kunofara. So sometimes we end up doing bad things due to the influence of other people.
Judging from my own perspective, I think you'll be trying to fit within the society, right? Unongoda kufita umunchi mu background, so that will lead you into doing that.
Welcome back as we continue with our discussion on positive talk, where today our focus is on peer pressure. And who better to talk to than the young people? I'm now joined by Tinashe from Lomagandi. I also have TVBK, I have Emily, as well as Wesley from Eaglesville. Say muchida kufita, because mese munungotaura zvokuda kufita. Ukasafita chichinoitika.
You know, as young kids, Tariro sangana nations that affects our lives.
Give me examples of zvakawanda zvamunosangana nazvo izvozvo sevana vadiki. Ndezvipi izvozvo?
Basically drugs, sex, neumbavo.
Would you say you can do anything to fit in? When you are with your peers, you can do anything, because the issue of fitting in is really coming up from you as young people. So would you say you can do anything to fit in?
Judging from my perspective, I think I wouldn't do anything just to fit in, because I was told that if you can't fit in with people who are bad, just play by yourself and find the right people to play with.
Would you say there are majority of young people, or there are some young people who would do anything so that they can fit in?
There are some young people.
And what would be the consequences of that?
Some might do something that might lead to expulsion, and others something that might go on their permanent record.
Well, some people would, because there are like disadvantages if you don't. Because I feel like if you were forced to do something, or if you have that kind of friendship with people who like lead you to do bad things, you end up like you're thinking to yourself, if I don't do this, they're gonna judge me, they're gonna bully me. And I know that in an environment like that, some children don't really find it easy, because you're under pressure and you're thinking, if I don't do this, that means I won't have friends. That causes to not concentrating in school as well.
What types of positive peer pressure have you experienced? Because here we've been focusing on the negative, but also there are times when you can actually learn or be influenced to do good by your friends.
There are many types of positive peer pressure which I encountered, and like some of them include going to church with other people to praise God, and focusing on our studies, and also being able to be independent, to work for yourself, to be someone who can sustain his or her own life.
I live in a quiet society, so I have little friends. So we actually encourage each other to study, because right now I'm doing my A levels, so I basically need the positive peer pressure for my friends.
To twist it with that positive peer pressure, when it's coming to you, are you able to also say, I'm resisting, the same way you were failing to resist negative peer pressure, because there is that, and then when you resist positive peer pressure, what happens?
Or sometimes if it's for your good and you say no, sometimes you really lose the advantage of something that's really good, and might be something that's going to change your life or something that's going to help you in your time of need.
What would you say are some of the lasting effects that negative peer pressure has had on you and on other young people?
Well, people would think that, okay, since I can't fit in, it also brings down children, and that leads to not concentrating as well. So I think that is a lasting effect of peer pressure.
What are the things that young people do when they have been negatively influenced by their peers?
Some of the people, they end up abusing drugs, maybe to relieve stress or to avoid that feeling of regretting what you have done before.
Alcohol abuse. As young kids, we try to experiment a lot of things. So some of these things tend to lead us not into our way.
As young people, as we try and wrap up this discussion, who would you say you need to turn to? Is it your parents, your friends? Especially when, let's say you have had a teenage pregnancy, you are into drugs and now you are saying, no, this is not on. Who is the best person to turn to?
That's quite a hard one, because you seem like all else failed and you're all alone and you don't know where to turn to. Some people turn to suicide and they just kill themselves rather than just go to their parents and talk about it, because they don't like the shame and the burden that comes with it.
Personally, it depends, like the relationship with the person. If it's your parents, some people have strict parents, so they are afraid to go and confront their parents and tell them what they've done. Some people are afraid of their friends because they're afraid of judgment. But at our school, we have peer counselors, so maybe that would help.
As for me, I normally tend to like the church leaders, because those are the people whom I trust. I know they will not disclose my information to everyone else.
Well, we are hearing from the young people, and the bottom line is young people do face peer pressure, and it's up to us, especially when I'm talking to parents. Some are comfortable to talk to the church elders. As a parent, you might be a church elder, so if any child comes to you, it's important you do dialogue with them. We are discussing the issue of peer pressure, and we are saying to young people, umbimbindo gakwete. Join us after the break. Hello and welcome to the third and final segment of Positive Talk, where today our discussion is looking at the issue of peer pressure. I'm joined on the program by Mrs. Chamboko. We also have Mr. Mapininga and Caroline Madondo. In the first two segments, we're talking to young people, and they were really telling us in terms of the peer pressure that they experience. They need to fit in. But when it came to the issue of elders, for them, they felt sometimes the parents do become too harsh, too strict, such that they don't feel comfortable to go and share anything with them. Saka ndoda kutanga nemi Mai Chamboko. Takatisa nyaya vana vadiki vari kutaura kuti kana papaipi kuti vanenge vasangana nematambudziko kuti vauye kwamuri imimi sevabereki sematicha dzimwe nguva munowanikwa muri too strict. Imi munofunga kuti munokwanisa here kunge muchitaura nevana, munokwanisa kunge muchizviita sei?
Kune chikoro chega chega pane department rinonzi reguidance and counseling. Ikoko kune murairidzi mumwe chete akatrainwa kuita basa iroro rokuti vana vanenge vafisa maproblems akaita seiwawo vanoendeswa kudepartment iyoyo, vanosvika kune qualified counselor anogona kuvabatsira pamaproblems.
Do you look at yourself as somebody who's actually well equipped to help young people tackle the pressures that they face, mainly when you're looking at peer pressure?
Yeah, if well equipped, yes, together with people in our surroundings, because I'm a parent and my children go to school. One is 17, one is 18. As a parent, I do my bit. Maybe that's the strict part where I try to enforce discipline and good behavior in them. I also work in tandem with the school, their teachers, where they also give us feedback. So well equipped, not alone, but together with the teachers, the schools and the community which they go to, churches.
Maybe the first thing that is a problem when dealing with teenagers is the issue of generation gap. So you find out that even you are old teachers, but they are maybe those young teachers and those older teachers. You find out that the teenagers, they relate better to the younger teachers because they look up to them not as parents per se, but maybe as their sisters. They see them closer to them. So some of these issues that they face, these young teachers can actually relate to them. So when you go out there, when you are trying to help them, you go there as a friend, sort of to say, and you try to put yourself down to their level, try to relate to those issues. When you do that, it's kind of easier to deal with those problems. For example, I teach even the A-levels, and they get to tell you some of the issues. They tell you everything, all the details. And when you relate to them in a way that is closer to them, I'll give you an example. I was teaching my HOD's teenage daughter. She would tell me problems and say, referring to the mother now. But you, ma'am, you can help me. So we've got such issues whereby this generation gap issue is really a problem. You know, when a teenage daughter goes to the mother and say, I need a tablet, you see, that parent can really fail. They'll say, no, we've got a computer here at home, and say, no, a computer is different from the tablet. Such things. So I think it's really a big issue. We need to close up that generation gap. And also the other issue is about openness between parents. You know, when you get to talk about everything, talk about all the issues openly, talk about sex, talk about the repercussions of sex, talk about dating, talk about all the issues surrounding those kind of things. I think it's not a day thing. You start with your kids. You know, when you culture that culture, whereby your kids can say anything to you, even when they grow up. You know, you can't expect them like when they are already teenagers. Now you want them to come to you. So you have to start from when they are young.
Maichambo kana ndakakutarisa isa amai tingati mimi muri kunyatsoziva here matambudziko ari kusangana nevana kana kuti kana hamusombonzwisisa kuti kuwana vadiki zvinhu zvavari zviri kuitika kwavari zvamira sei kuti munyatsovanzwisisa kuti mugokwanisa zvakare kuvabatsira pane zvavanenge vachida kubatsirwa?
Zvimwe zvacho tinozvinzwisisa, maproblems akuitika pataikura isusu anga asipo, asi kana mwana ari close kubereki wake, I feel kuti matambudziko iwawo tinogona kuasiya. Unogona kuti if you are open to your kids, vanogona kuva vachikutaurirawo ndokunzwisiswa kundosaka maproblems.
Mr. Mapininga, are you still in touch with challenges that young people face today? You've got a 17-year-old son. When we're looking at peer pressure, the day-to-day issues that are happening, we know there is a lot of this whole place they're talking about say no to doping. Maybe when you were growing up, doping was not an issue. You know, sexual abuse, all the peer pressure that they face. Would you say you are in touch of those issues and you can actually be able to advise your son?
Yeah, we in touch, yes, but I don't want to appear as if I know everything. There are some bits that we know, there are some that we don't know, and we really need, I always talk about, when we talk of HIV and AIDS, it's multi-sectoral response. So people like Childline, going to schools and talking to these children about all these things, but it's the father to son relationship, parent to child relationship that can also be cultivated in a way in which to address that generation gap, although it exists.
Yeah. Carol, I'm coming to you as a teacher. From your experience, you talked about the fact that young people are actually willing to come and engage with you because of maybe your age. But I want to find out from you, have you actually gotten to a situation where you have seen somebody, a good child, turning into a bad child? And were you able to help in such instances? Because of peer pressure, somebody has just had these friends and just changes completely.
Unfortunately, yes. There is a boy at my school who has now dropped out of school. And that boy is academically talented. Even in sports, he's good. But suddenly he just went wild. And it's unfortunate that I never got the chance to reach out. But I know someone who tried to reach out. And when they went for some outing with some children, took the boy aboard when he was not supposed to be there because of his bad behavior. You know, when everyone is already labeling you, this one is a bad boy, this one is a bad boy. And that teacher tried to bring the boy closer. And for some time we thought he was reforming. Then I don't know what happened down the line. The next thing, he was no longer staying at home. The next thing, he was no longer coming to school. So when efforts were made, even by other teachers, because the boy, he has moved from home, now we can't see him.
Sometimes the peer pressure, the kids are actually trying to belong. So I want to find out, as we try and wrap up the discussion, imimi sevabereki toita sei saka kuti tigadzirise nyaya yekuti vana vari kuzoinfluencwa nevamwe vavo vodzidza kunyanya zvakaipa, nokuti zvakanaka kazvinomboipa kudzidza and kashoma kuzozvida. Zvinonyanya kukwezva ndezvakashata zvezve zvinenge zvinzi zvinorovesa, ndozvinenge zvida kuitwa izvozvo. Toita sei sevabereki kuti tizvigadzirise izvozvo?
Tive neinonzi quality time nevana vedu patinonyatsogara navo pasi tichibvunzwa kuti chii chiri kuitika kune mumwe nemumwe wevana vedu vatinga tiinavo. By discussing with them, tinobva taziva maproblems avo togona kuvabatsira zvavhoita kuti vazoita zvinhu zvavanoita zvikunzwa nevanokontrol.
I think I always say parenting is a lesson we learn as we go, but the biggest lesson is a platform like this. I've actually been opened with what she said about discussing issues of sex, not taboo and all that, but trying to reach out to them, getting to talk to them. I think it should start with the family.
Caroline, I want your last words to young people when we're looking at the issue of peer pressure, how they should protect themselves from being influenced and the consequences that they would face. You shared a sad story already. So I want you to advise young people who are watching this program really in terms of how best to deal with peer pressure, as it does negatively affect their lives.
Right, what I would just want to say to those young people is that no matter how bad you view your parent, no matter how strict you think they are, the bottom line is that strictness or that badness that you see is out of love. They love you. We do love you as your parents, but maybe sometimes we don't know how to show that love. As a result, we are trying to be overprotective, and if you find out, you might even find out that your parents have got some mistakes that they've made in their own lives, and they don't want those mistakes to resurface in your own lives, you guys. So they're trying to prevent you from all the bad.
Well, we heard it from the adults, and the message that they are giving us as young people is to say, be in a position, use that sixth sense to tell what is good and what is bad. What we want here on Positive Talk is that positive peer pressure. So join us next week as we continue with our interesting discussions where we are running with the theme where we are saying Umbimbi Ndoga Kwete. Until next week, goodbye.